Hey, you guys. This is Sky Juice coming to you live and direct, and we are here with the Art of Living podcast. And we got Tony B in the house, always.
Afternoon.
So fabulous. I'm here trying to get I made like a t-shirt vest.
Look, we doing something new here. We haven't done the afternoon podcast ever.
We did the one with the lady in Africa.
Wait, that was the afternoon one?
That was around this same time.
Okay.
Or was it in the morning? It was in the morning.
I think it was in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so hopefully we get a different crew of people who are online watching. But today we're going to be talking about a really special conversation about foster parenting. And a very beautiful friend of mine, Maritza, is a foster mom with her husband. And she is also a strong person in the community of Philadelphia, advocating for the kids in school. She's always been, this is the person I know. She's been a parent-teacher liaison, but she told me exactly what the title is called. She's a National Parents Union Northeast Regional Organizer. So she's like all about getting these kids together. So here she is. Hey, how you doing?
Hi, everybody. I'm great. How are you?
Hey, welcome on.
Cool. So today we wanted to talk about your foster parenting experience and how it's been, why you decided to do it. I guess start there.
Well, my husband and I have been resource parent. It's called resource parents now. Resource parents for the past it's going on almost 7 years now. We decided, we have a large home. It was just me, myself, and our daughter. I have grown sons. They were out of the house. And we wanted to just be there for children that had a need for guidance and acceptance and love, basically. So we went through the classes. We became certified. And it was a little bit of we had a few hiccups in the beginning because, bureaucratic paperwork. Some folks forgot, they had all their clearances done, but they just left it in a drawer. And then we were about to just say, forget it. But then we actually, the director of the agency that we went through reached out to us and apologized. And 2 months later, she said, we're certifying you. We're opening up your home. And we've had our first child was 11 months old. His name is Terrell. Through many different circumstances, unfortunately, from his biological side of the family, mom lost her rights. Dad, unfortunately, passed away in Philly. We were able to adopt him. Terrell is now 5 years old. Really happy child. Halfway through, 2 weeks after we got Terrell, we got a group of 3 siblings. We had them for 9 months. Some things happened, of which they had to be removed, and they were then split up. We don't know where they are to this day. I hope they're fine. Mm-hmm. But then back in 3 years ago, I was home. For a while dealing with some knee surgery that I had done. And we got a call asking us if we would be willing to take 2 little sisters. Mm. And we received 2 little sisters, a family of 6 children. They were 2 and 4 at the time. They are now 5 and 7. So now I have 2 5-year-olds in the house, a 7-year-old, and my teenage daughter, Mecca, who is 16.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what types of, you say you took classes, what types of classes were they giving you, and what are you certified in?
Well, there are different types of resource homes. You can be a general resource home, a general foster home. You can be a medical foster home, which requires more weeks of certification training to have you go through 2 to 3 months of training once a week, by which you go through a series of classes dealing with, discipline, emotions, connectivity with children, the relationships you might or might not have with the biological family. They explain your rights. You have to take a lot of different certifications. You have to have a clean, no criminal background, no history of child abuse, whether that you were accused of, and determined, at fault for abusing a child, things of that nature. You have to be able to prove your home income. You also have to have pass through a home inspection. So your home has to be up to par as far as safety, as far as the space in your home. You can't put a child in care on the sofa bed, on an air mattress, on a futon. It has to be an actual bed. If possible, their own room, but if not, they do allow children to be in the same room. It could be your biological child and then the foster child, as long as they're the same sex, under the age of 5. We had the group of siblings along with Terrell. We had the little ones, all three of the little ones, in one room, and then we had the eldest boy in a separate bedroom. So it is possible for that. But once the child turns 5, they have to be in their own rooms. And you have to be willing to allow people to be nosy, and I'm serious about that. You have to allow the visitation of the caseworker assigned to the children. You have to allow visitation of the person that's called a resource parent support worker. That's basically the foster parents caseworker, come into your home on a monthly basis so that they can make sure everything's okay. They'll do a walkthrough of your home. They will open your refrigerator door. If they
Wow.
deem it necessary, they'll open up your pantry to see what kind of food you have in there. And they'll go through every room in the house. They'll make sure you have smoke detectors, fire extinguishers, make sure you don't have any exposed wires or anything like that in the home. So you have to be okay with that. Not everyone is okay with having visitors in their home. And not
Right.
everybody gets a nice caseworker.
Right. That's true. Go, Tony.
Okay, I got a million questions, but can you hear me?
Can you
We
hear
don't
me?
hear. We don't hear. I don't hear him
You don't hear me
at
Uh-oh.
all.
Can you
Oh,
hear me,
wow.
sir?
I can hear you. Yeah. Maybe it's one side of your thing.
No, I hear you great. I hear you
I
great,
wonder why.
Sky.
I wonder why you can't hear him. Why don't you say it, Tony, and I'll repeat it for her.
Oh, I can do that too. Okay, so my grandmother and my mother were both foster parents, so I've seen like both sides, the good side and the bad side of foster parents for years and years. So when I think about foster parenting, I'm assuming that state to state is different, like the different programs and the things that you have to go through and the way that you become a foster parent. But when you think about foster parenting and you think about being able to get in there, because I know one thing back in the day, that child, the income you get from that child, it can't be your only income. You have to have a job as well, as well as having a foster kid.
Let me tell her this. Did you hear any of that?
It's a shame. Not a word.
No. All right.
So basically what he's saying is the money that you're getting from foster care, you still have to have your own income. Because
Absolutely.
his mother and grandmother both were foster parents as well. Go ahead, Tony.
All right. So, like I said, I've seen the good side and the bad side, or I've heard of the good side and the bad side of foster parenting. One thing that I did hear about is that there is a lack of foster parents and adoptive parents for people of color as well. So there's a lot of kids that are in the system that just don't get picked up.
Okay.
Is that true? Is there?
Let me translate.
Right. Yeah.
So he was saying that there's a lack of people of color doing this. And especially there's probably a lot of children that are of color that are in the system. Right?
Absolutely. The highest percentage of children are Black and brown children. And you're absolutely right when you say that there are not enough Black and brown families that are willing to take children in. And there's a myriad of reasons. A lot of them say it's because they don't think they can handle having to raise or discipline a child that wasn't born in their family, raised in their family, because it is very different. You don't know the way that what kind of home life that child had, or even if they had any monicum of a home life. So you have to basically it's like retraining them, getting them used to them being in a different environment, getting them used to them speaking to people a different way. I mean, I remember Terrell was a baby, so he was 11 months. But when the girls came to us, unfortunately, we realized very early on that there was a lot of food deprivation going on. And we found that out because whenever I would call, it took a couple of months before the girls stopped running to the kitchen whenever I said dinner's ready or breakfast ready or lunch is ready, because it was basically a situation where if they didn't get to the table fast enough in their home with their family, they may not have eaten any food.
Wow.
Wow.
I can't
So
eat.
you can, yeah, exactly. You can even
Can't
imagine that.
I
Yeah.
can't
So
imagine.
so that happening, children sometimes they come to your home, and even though they're an older child, you may have to put pull-ups on them because they have an issue with urinating in the bed, and that's just their body's response to the shock of being somewhere
Trauma.
else. The
Mm,
trauma, yeah, they were pulled from their home. Foster children, regardless of how dire the situation was with their family, they wanted to stay with that family. And a
right.
lot of things have to happen before a child is even removed. A lot of things their situation in their family started as a truancy issue. The parents were not
Mm.
taking the older siblings to school
Mm.
to the point of 90 days a school year.
Wow.
Yeah, so the school made the report. The report then goes to the Department of Human Services here in Philadelphia. It's considered DHS. It may be it's DIFUS in Jersey. And when that happened, they had a caseworker that whose job it is to try to help a family from having to have their children removed.
Got it.
All that they didn't follow the plan, and a decision was made to remove all 6 children.
Wow.
Now, I know in a lot of places, I know like in California, there's a problem with kids aging out of foster care. Is there a,
He's talking about kids aging out of
is there
foster
is there
Ooh.
is there a
The
program
kids
for,
aging out of foster care, and I know all this because I'm not only a foster parent, but I was so involved in being a foster parent that I actually ended up working for a foster care agency, and I ended up being a resource parent support worker, and then a coordinator in a foster care adoption unit. So when a child is going on 18, a lot of discussions are had. The hope is that that teenager has a plan.
mm,
They are eligible as long as they go through some kind of training program or school. If they go away to college, or they go through some kind of training program to get a blue collar job, they are then given a what's called a board extension till they're 21.
so what happens with their if they're still in high school
He said
when they're
what happens if they're still in high school?
It continues even if they're 18, still in high school, as long as they're still either going to school or some kind of program or working. They get help. They get housing assistance. They'll continue with their medical, dental benefits, their vision benefits, and they would also get. There's a set amount per child that's in foster care that the resource parent gets, depending on the age of the child when they came into the system. When they're over the age of 13, once they hit 13, that amount increases. So the hope is that the resource family give some of that money to that child. That's the hope, being the
mm,
operative word.
yeah.
A lot of times it does not happen, but that money, all the monies received are for the children. Of course, you have to pay for certain things, food, clothing, sneakers, health, shoot, clothes, sneakers,
Gas.
extracurricular activities, things in
Right.
the home, yes. But it shouldn't be unfortunately, it shouldn't be a come up for a person to become a
Right.
foster parent. It shouldn't be seen as, oh, wow, I got this extra money. It's mine. No, it's not your money. It's
Mm,
for the child. There's
mm.
some resource families, some folks that are more affluent, they actually take that money and put it into an account for that child.
And
I
give it
know
a
a young man that he's a foster parent. He has 2 foster sons, and he says, I make money. I have several veins of income. I don't need this money. He puts it in a bank account
for them.
for them,
Good. That's
and
good.
he says when they what either they're going to be my sons if that happens. If not, if they decide to move somewhere else or go somewhere else, he's going to
Mhm.
send that money to them or save it until they're of age to get the money. And I
Gotcha. I
was
don't
like,
know
that's
where his money
amazing.
went. Right. So my question is, well, not even a question, more so than a comment. It's like you really want to do this. It's not a business. It's not a multiple streams of income. You know what I mean?
It
So
absolutely
can you
is
tell me?
not.
I'm back. I don't know
Oh
what
yeah, I
happened.
can hear you now.
Oh, you can hear me now. Okay.
Yes.
All
That's
right.
better. I
Good.
like the Tony Sky sandwich too.
There we go. There we go. All right. So I've got another question for you too, as well. So
Sure.
when we talk about the aging out process for the kids and all that, there's a certain screening that goes on for the people that are able to be eligible to be foster parents, right?
Correct.
Okay, because I always hear about you have, I guess the only way I can say it is you have parents that are in it or adults that are in it just for the money. So when money stops.
Oh my gosh, it shouldn't be something where I can give you a situation where I knew of a person that she had so many foster children that she would rent cars every month, like nice cars every month, and the kids are running around. They're not, the boys no haircuts, the girls hair not being done, the children just looking a complete mess. So someone like that would definitely be on the radar of the foster care agency, as well as whatever city or state agency is responsible for those children, because these children are now become the responsibility of the state until they're 18.
But these caseworkers have so many different cases. How are they able to keep up? Because I know it's like from what I understood from back in the days, a lot of the caseworkers are underpaid as well. They're underpaid and they're overworked. So they're stretching themselves out to try to make sure things like this and these kids are slipping through the cracks.
Well, the thing is, I've had experiences with a horrible caseworker, and I've had experiences with absolutely wonderful people.
But they're doing the best they can, though, right?
They do the best. The one that we have right now to date, she has been with us from the beginning for the past 3 years, and that's rare for a caseworker to have the same family for that amount of time. No child should be in care longer than 18 months. So imagine that. And that was just recently enacted, because they've been, depending on how old you are, you could have been a child in care from the time you were born till you were 18. And just gone from foster home to foster home to foster home. But now they've mandated it, and I believe it's across the country. You should not be in care for longer than 18 months. And it would have to have been under extreme situations, the reason why. Now, in my situation...
What is the reason why they would be there longer than 18 months?
It could have... I don't even want to use COVID as an example, but... let's say the family has been following the plan, but then they had a relapse. Because every 3 months that a child is in care, that biological family is in front of a judge every 90 days. And they have to answer certain questions. Have you been looking for a job? Are you gainfully employed? Do you have a place to live? If it was required that you have mental health services, have you been getting them? If it was required that you receive domestic violence, sessions, have you been getting that? If you've been using drugs, have you been randomly tested and tested negative? Are you going to a clinic or rehab? All of these things come into play just on the biological family side. The children's side, it may have been situations where they themselves probably had some kind of mental health crisis and were in a facility for a while. They ran away. If a young person is constantly running away, it delays the process. And who's responsible for finding that child? That caseworker. So they have to run all around town, all around the city to try to find this child. Go to the police. And they will not if it gets to the point where they have to request a private detective, it has to be under the authority and permission of a judge. So you may have to wait 90 days to see the judges and say, I can't find this child. Can we please get permission to get a private detective to try to find the child? That's a runaway.
So is there a distinction between a child that's placed in foster care and a child that's looking to be adopted? And there could be a transition, like can you have a foster child for a while, and then the situation with the parent, either the parents pass away, they may be in jail or incarcerated for an extended amount of time. Is it a way that you can say, okay, I want to adopt this child? Is there a program? Okay.
What happens is whenever people become certified to be foster parents, they're asked, would you ever consider adopting a child? And that's a difference between a regular foster home and a pre-adoptive home.
Got it.
My husband and I left that option open, that in the event that a child has been with us for an extended amount of time, would we adopt? And of course, if you're going to fall in love with these children,
Yeah.
I mean, no one is going to have a child in their home for an extended period of time and not care about them.
Right.
So, in our case, when we got our son, I mean, we fell in love with him the day we saw him. So we tried. The hope is always what's called reunification. That is the hope, that the family will get themselves together and be able to get their child back. That is the hope. I've seen it happen. So it is possible. But then in this era, unfortunately, of rampant drug use, violence, crime, things like that, there are a lot of obstacles in families' way. One thing that I always try to that I've always questioned is, why hasn't there been more support for the biological fathers? There always seems to be a focus on the biological mothers and
Right.
getting the children back. The case of the three siblings that we had in our home, mother, they were always talking about mom. I said, well, what about dad? What is this situation? Mom was a drug user, going through rehab. Dad was homeless. That was his only obstacle, that he was homeless. He was in a shelter. Mom was a drug user, a known drug user.
Yeah.
So a lot of
Mm.
the focus was on mom got herself clean, but then mom unfortunately had a relapse. And when she had a relapse, she was biological families have the right to what's called visitation, supervised visitation at first, until a judge deems that parent worthy enough, because they followed the plan, to then be able to see their child in what's called an 8 to 8, where you would agree upon a location. The child would be taken somewhere 8 o'clock in the morning, given to their biological parent, and be picked up at 8 o'clock at night.
Mm.
She got herself to that point,
Okay. Just the
but
progress.
because she had a relapse, it went back down to zero, where you have to have a supervised visit for just 1 hour a week with somebody right there, sitting there in the same space when you're there with your child, watching everything you do, whether it's a diaper change
It's
for
so
a
sad.
baby. Yeah, a diaper change. They look at what you're feeding them. It's just,
Yeah,
it was just,
But
whew.
I think there's some adults that need that type of supervision
Oh
because
yeah.
yeah, because there's these children are too precious to just, trash behavior. This shit is trash.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, when I was in Puerto Rico, I think that was my eye-opening experience on how people neglected children.
Yes.
On It was so bad. Let me tell you how bad it was. And a lot of it had to do with poverty and just like all these other factors. But in the hospital, it was so bad. In the hospital, if your child came into the hospital for any reason, when you walk into the hospital, you no longer have rights to your child. You have zero rights. The child is now just a cut on the, and I had to deal with the hospital because my daughter got a cut on her chin, right? She was in the room and they were doing an examination. Her whole chin was swollen, and I wanted to go to the bathroom in another room. It was just an observation. They had no bathroom, so I had to go down the hall. They said, "You can't go anywhere," and I was like, "Why? I'll be right back." No, you cannot leave your child for a second. You can't. You will be locked up. And I was like, "Why?" They were like, "Here in Puerto Rico, let me just tell you what goes on. Here in Puerto Rico, people leave their children in the hospital and leave. They can't afford their kids or what have you. They'll come up with some ailment or what have you, drop their kids off at the emergency room and roll the hell out." And when I was told that, I was like, "Oh my God, I didn't even think, I wouldn't think that way. Like I would never, I'm just going
Oh yeah.
down the hall." You know what I mean? And so when I just heard about all the stuff that was going on, and I had a friend who worked on the federal level of this type of program, the foster care program for the United States, and she was one of 3 people on the island, and I actually met all 3 of them, who would go all over the island daily. They would just pick an area and just start doing random visitation on these homes. And she said it's a crisis. So if you or anybody else listening to this hears this and you want to do foster care, consider going to Puerto Rico because they have the funding for it. They do not have the home. They don't have enough homes. So she'll go in and do an inspection and have to shut the whole house down.
Yep.
And there'll be like 4 kids in there. And now they have to take the kids and go squeeze them in to another place that's over capacity. And she said it's really at chaos level right now. And this was probably a good 8 years ago. So I can't even imagine now. She said it is such an emergency. Like she was even trying to talk to me about doing it. And I was like, I'm not built for it. I sympathize and I almost would love to, but I'm not like you, Maritza.
I wouldn't be able to do it without Kareem's help. Absolutely not. It's definitely, I mean, there are single foster parent homes, but I would not have been able to do it without his help. We're partners in this.
There's a question that someone posted. Gloria is asking, why does the system not help fathers, i.e. the father who is homeless, with housing could have been allocated for the father and place the children with him?
I agree. Well, I questioned it. I was like, what's going on? Why is it? We met him. We had a chance to, we were able to form some kind of good communication with both the bio parents, but everything is always complicated. So this man's history, he was homeless. He was living in a shelter. It's not easy getting housing for a single man.
That's trash.
And it's like they put the cart before the horse. If he would have been homeless with the children with him, they would have gotten housing like that. He would have got housing like that. So they say, okay, first get the children back, then we'll help you get a place to live. It's ridiculous. That's how it is. I mean, and that's why, tip is more, mothers walking around with their children. Okay, we'll help you get a house, but let it be a father. They make them go through a lot more hoops. And as far as the biological families, they make them go through what's called a parent capacity evaluation to see if they have the mental capacity to be even parents. They make the families go through what's called family school, where someone is literally next to you, shoulder to shoulder, while you're with your children, because they want to see how you talk to them, how you feed them, how you change them, how you show them affection, how you discipline. That is you're under a microscope. It's called family school. And if you don't pass through that process in family school, you may not have an opportunity to get your children back.
Now, I got to say this too, because like I said, I knew people that grew up in the foster care system, and a lot of them didn't really have good experiences. They had bad experiences with abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, and all those things, right? Now, for that, and I know it's probably different from state to state. I come from California, but I know it's different from state to state. But in looking at that, I in my opinion, I think it's this. Once again, you have these caseworkers that have so many cases, and they're not able to sit there and evaluate each and every case and really pay attention and try to see if something may be going on with this child there, right? So when it comes to the actual system itself, we talk about the system failing the kids. And the system fails the kids because they're not putting enough of the extensive background check and evaluation of these parents. They're just trying to place these kids because there's so many of them that need placement. But you can't, because then you have these kids that are having these long-term effects. Because these people I'm talking about are grown adults right now that still talk about their experiences they had in foster care that mentally has them messed up to this day. So my question to you is, do you see a push for more social workers or caseworkers to be able to help to take the load off so you don't have so many in them trying to do so much, because they can only do so much at one time? And do you feel like, I don't know if you know the pay amount, but do you think the pay amount is fair to be able to push people to want to even do that? Because when you
the starting pay for a caseworker is maybe around in the low 30 range.
That doesn't make any sense.
It's in the low 30 range, and that's with a college degree. Now, one thing that I can say, that's with a college degree.
Why would you do that?
You must have a degree that has to be in the humanities. It has to be, you can't have an art degree and try to be a caseworker for children.
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. And what also needs to happen, they have to train them with someone that is experienced. Like, I really wish that my caseworker, that they would offer her the opportunity to be a coordinator, a supervisor, or trainer of other, because she's been in it for years. If they would have offered her, based on her experience, and she does her job well, and I'm like, wow, it's crazy because it's a thankless job. They don't pay enough. They have one of the highest turnover rates. Before my son, he had, and we adopted him when he was 2. So we got him when he was 11 months. We adopted him when he was 2. From the time he was 11 months till he was 2, no lie, he had 5 different caseworkers coming to our house.
That doesn't make sense. They need to have more money.
Now,
There needs to be more money for that.
And more training.
I'm going to say this, and it might sound controversial, but to me, it seems like it's a part of the system in the pipeline that they don't want to put as much in there, because if you can get these children in this pipeline of being in the system and then get into the prisons and getting the free labor and all that, because they're putting them in a position to fail. You know what I mean? You don't want to pay the social workers any money to make sure these kids are going to be all right. You don't want to make sure you're doing enough of a background check or an evaluation on the parents. You know what I mean? So it's to the point to where someone like you is a rarity in the foster care system. It shouldn't be. You should be the norm, not the rarity.
You should be investing in these children and these families and these parents. That should be a huge high priority in our whole country, to get these children in the best case scenario that they can possibly be.
You talked about the father thing. There goes another thing in my mind.
That's the issue.
These kids, you don't want these fathers to be in the home. You don't want them to be in that place. You would rather them fall through the cracks, then you can just go ahead and throw them in the legal system and get the free labor out of them. But, like I said, it might be a little controversial, so I'm not going to get too far into that. But that's just how I feel about it, because
no, it's not. You're absolutely correct. There are things that everybody can do. You can make an anonymous call to your state's child line to say, I think that the child's being abused.
That's good.
You don't have to even give your name. You could just Google it. Whatever state you're in, child line, it's a toll-free number. You call, you give them as much information. Someone with a lot of experience will then make a determination. We need to go out to this home. Something extreme, of course, you call the police. But if you have a suspicion that a child's is going through some kind of neglect, they're not being fed, they're not being clothed, they're being battered, they're being abused, molested, physical abuse, whatever it is, they're being exposed to alcohol, drugs, anything like that. You can call the child line anonymously and make a report, and someone will go out to that home. And my daughter told me that one of her friends was being physically abused. My daughter confided in me, and I said, okay, I appreciate you telling me, but I need to know that young lady's name. I need to know where she lives, because I made a report.
Yeah. Now let me.
And I'm a mandated reporter. Anytime a person becomes a foster parent, they are also was considered a mandate. Like teachers are mandated reporters, police officers, doctors, nurses, foster parents too. If you're anywhere in the foster care, anywhere you deal with children, you're considered a mandated reporter. So if you know something, you have to report it, no matter what.
If you're a human being, you should be a mandated.
You should be doing it.
Period.
Absolutely.
It shouldn't be a title to just care about a child's well-being.
Now let me ask you a question. And this is kind of on the subject, off the subject a little bit. So what happens in the case of a special needs child, like maybe autism? We talk about autism a lot. What happens when a child has autism or any kind of special needs
mental health
into foster care? How does that work? And what do you have to have as a qualification?
That child will be considered may go into a medical foster home.
Okay.
Where that resource parent has more training to be able to deal with that. Now, a child on the autism spectrum, it depends. Medically, definitely, I know. Severe mental health issues that requires medication, yes. But a child with autism may or may not be considered for a medical foster home. But if a foster parent requests it and says, listen, the type of care this child needs, either help me get the certification needed to be able to keep them here with me, or we're gonna have to find a home that is already certified and already trained in how to be able to help raise and care for a child. That's because the spectrum is different. It could be slight or it could be severe. So if the child's on the severe side, it's going to require more care.
Now, without even having you answer it, I'm already knowing that there's probably not enough medical foster care parents, huh?
They're not, and they actually, for those that don't know, that the what's it's called a stipend. The stipend amount is higher per child. For the medical foster homes.
Yeah.
That's what the lady in Puerto Rico was telling me. She was like, "Yes, Skai, if you can get into." She was like, "There's like funding for foster care with medical or mental health, adult foster care, elder care, all of these social services." Like, so I majored in sociology when I was in college, but I didn't go that route because there was no money in it. And it was just like, just what you said, like for someone to have college loans and they can't even live and eat, $30,000 is not doing anything for me. Gloria says social workers are underpaid like teachers, and those who understand the workings of how to handle the situation, they do not get the positions to do the most.
That's absolutely correct. Teachers and anyone in the social work field, I honestly feel they need to be making six figures from the door.
Yes.
Now, there was a situation in Baltimore years ago when I was there, and I remember it so clearly. There was a foster family that was Muslim, and they had a child come, as a young boy, come into their home, and everything started happening because of their religion. What do you know about situations where you have a welcoming family, they happen to have a different religion or what have you than the child, and like what does that look like? Because I got a good and I really think
I got one. Go ahead. Yeah,
I really think that the Muslim thing was more the issue than the fact that they were religious, because I think a lot of Christians have homes, but I think that they were practicing Muslims. The woman had the whole, I hate to use the words because I don't even remember them at the moment. I'm sorry, but
the hijab. She had the hijab. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, she had the hijab on. Like the whole family was that way. They did the prayer, everything, and they put him. They initially put him in, and then they wanted to remove him. I don't know if someone complained or what have you, but I'll have to go research the story. But if y'all could Google it,
in that kind of situation, everything possible is done in order to have a good match. And that's what the family has to do. The potential home, the potential resource home has to really do a really deep, intense reality check, because the opposite can be true. You could be a person that is Christian, and a child is of another religion comes into your home. A child whose biological family expresses that they want their child to continue in the faith that they're being raised in. You have to be willing to take that child to the mosque, to the synagogue, to the church, if that is what the family is requesting. Wow. One thing you cannot do, you cannot make that foster child subscribe to whatever beliefs you have.
Wow. Okay.
It can't be forced. You can't make that child go to church with you, or the mosque, or the synagogue. You can't make them, especially if they're of age to say, I do not want to go. I do not follow this religion. We can't make them. Also, in my home, if one of my children say to me, I want to start going to church, I do not go to church. But if they want to start going, I would help them find one.
Now, let me ask you a question, and this might be a little bit controversial, and you don't really have to answer it if you don't want to, because I'm going to give my opinion on it. I was asked about the whole adoption thing, about, different kids of not color, and they were talking about, I said personally, I didn't think that Black kids should be adopted by people that weren't Black, right? And maybe I should have reversed it and said, in fact, if you are, I think you should have some kind of training on cultural training of what that child culture is like. If you are a Black child and you're adopted by this, or you have a foster parent that doesn't look like you, the one thing that we can all agree on is when you see this little Black child or this little mixed child with these white parents, how come their hair is always messed up?
Yeah, but listen, my hair is braided. My hair is braided, Tony. I don't braid. I don't braid my hair.
Yeah.
I'm Afro Latina. Okay.
Yeah.
I know we all black. I recognize that.
Yeah.
One of the group of siblings that we had,
Yeah.
if you saw those children, it was 3 siblings.
Yeah.
The eldest, blue eyes, looked white,
Uh-huh.
but his father's black. Mom is white. The middle child was didn't have the same parents, just the mom.
Yeah.
You could tell she was fully white.
Yeah.
The baby girl, she was only like 9 months when we first got her. She was just getting into, like what her hair texture would be and her complexion.
Yeah.
She was like her brother.
Yeah.
Hazel eyes, very white. Here's me, and I'm walking around with these kids.
Yeah.
But I made sure they were well groomed. You can pay somebody. That's what that money's for. You could pay somebody, take them to a barbershop, take them to a hairdresser, take them to a salon, take them to a braider. There's no reason, if you are not of color, that you have a child that is of color, that they should be walking around looking crazy.
You know what? That is a cultural thing. You know why, Tony? Because I have a friend, she's white, her husband is black, and they have a mixed baby. And the child's hair is always like, right?
And think about
curly hair. But the thing about
that
is a cultural thing, because I think black people want their child's hair to look a certain way. They want it to be smooth. You know what I'm saying?
And it could be braided.
It could be locked up. It could be braided locks. Yeah,
something, but not just everywhere.
They wanted
you can't
it
put
not
water
like
on it every day. You just can't.
They want it like not what she had. In other words, they look at her hair like you didn't do anything, and her mother is looking at her hair like, oh, it's curly and it's big and it's cute. And black people look, not all. Some black people look at it like you didn't do anything to your daughter's hair. She just woke up and walked out the house. So yes, that is a cultural thing, because it's a different way of viewing beauty and looks and hair and all that kind of stuff. And I agree with that.
Do you feel like moisturizer and certain things? Like even right now, your hair is in a ponytail.
It's looking trash today, so don't.
But Tony, I don't know if you know this. We're not allowed to cut the child's hair.
That's
without
good.
permission.
No, I didn't know that either.
Now, yes, if boys or girls. If I had a situation where there was a black child placed in a Latino home.
Okay.
The child got gum in her hair. Now, the foster parent didn't make sure that she got some direction on what she should do. She could have YouTubed how to remove gum. Yeah. But instead of doing that, she cut the child's hair. Cut it.
We're down to put ice in it and just take it down there in my.
Oh yeah,
She cut it. They were gonna remove the child from that woman's house because she didn't. When the biological mom saw, the child had hair out to here.
Yeah, but she should have known that. Wasn't she trained that she's not supposed to do that?
They all know that you're not supposed to cut the child's hair. Even if it's a boy, like my son. He had got what there are things called investigations that can happen.
Yeah.
So the situation was that the foster parent that relapsed, she reported us. So an investigation had to happen. During the investigation, they removed all of the foster kids out of our house for 3 months. Terrell was growing an afro. It was like this high. He was growing it when they removed him. When we got him back 3 months later, he had a fade. I was upset, but what am I going to do? Whoever he was with, they allowed that to happen.
That's the thing about when we talk about the cultural part of it is there are not enough people doing this. That's why you're going to have kids in homes. I think that might have been the case with the Baltimore situation. Was they put a kid in a Muslim home because that was all that was available, probably. They'll have black kids in white homes because that's all that's available in certain areas, and that's what basically is going on. It's like you're having multicultural situations, and while there's a lot of people that feel like rainbows are us, it doesn't really feed the child that might need a specific thing. There's some human things that all children need: love, care, and attention, and feeding, and but the cultural aspects are ridiculous. I remember growing up with kids who were, and I don't think these were necessarily foster kids, but they were adopted. and they were in Black kids in white homes, and they were not Black. You know what I'm saying? Like they had a very white perspective on the world. And I'm like, yo, look in the mirror, because the reality is going to smack you in the face.
But
You
the
know
thing
what I'm
about
saying?
that too, like my friend told me that was in social work. She said, Tony, there's just not enough of us, so they need to go somewhere. These kids don't have a home.
They need to go
You know what I
somewhere,
mean?
right?
And I get that. I totally get that part of it. You know what I mean? And it's just, I think it's something to where the same way there needs to be a push for more social workers and better pay, there needs to be a push for more people of color to say, hey, think about this. Because there's people out there that can't have kids for whatever reason. You know,
Oh yeah.
they're being a foster parent. You know what I mean? So people like you are important for people to hear about and hear your story and what you're doing. And maybe it might motivate them to say, you know what, let me go out there. Maybe I could do something like that.
And one thing I need people to understand is that there seems to be a misconception because everybody wants babies. They want to foster babies. And I explained to them, let me tell you something about fostering babies. There's no guarantee that you're going to get to keep that baby. We had a newborn baby in our home.
Wow.
No, a newborn. She was only 2 weeks old. But she was a white baby, red hair, blue eyes.
Aw.
They told the day they brought her to our home, they were like, Miss Guridy, you may not have her here for long, because when the mother had the child in the hospital, her family was adamant and said, you better not take this baby to a Black home.
Wow.
So it took them exactly 9 days. We only had her for 9 days because we didn't sleep for 9 days with a newborn. I remember this.
Yeah.
Right.
It took them only 9 days to find a great aunt somewhere that did not have a criminal background or a history of child abuse.
Now,
so they came and got that child.
Now, what about when they have the? I think it's a situation where if you have a child and you don't want the child, you can leave it at a hospital or a fire department or something like that, no questions asked. Now,
That's Haven. That's safe haven. That's safe haven.
Okay. So when those children are dropped off like that, I'm pretty sure it can't be a foster care thing. It's probably more of an adoptive thing.
It's straight foster care first. They go through the system.
Okay, so they just go through. So
I was part of a phone-a-thon because foster care agencies, not the state or city agency, foster care agencies are nonprofits. So the one I used to work for, we were having a phone-a-thon. I got over 100 calls of people saying, "Oh, I want a baby. I want a baby. I want to be able to adopt a baby." And I had to remind them, this is not an adoption agency. You pay for an adoption. You don't pay for a child that you have fostered and fostered for long enough time that the parents, for some reason, have lost their rights. Then that child then became able to be adopted. Then that you don't pay for.
Yeah.
Because it was through the state, through the city, through the foster care agency that happened. My situation with my son was rare because his mother had a previous child. My son has an older sister, and that child was beaten so severely by her own father she had to be hospitalized. He is still in jail.
Wow.
But she was told by caseworkers, if you have another child, we will watch you. Wow. They did watch her. She met another person, and it was the same kind of domestic violence dynamic. They didn't want to have the same situation, so they took Terrell from her. So she automatically lost her rights. They gave the opportunity for dad to be able to get his son back. He had to go through the plan. He wasn't following the plan, and also no one in his family was able to do what's called kinship care. You can do kinship care and still get the resources to help you with a child, a relative child of yours.
Yeah.
No one in his family passed the background checks. Wow. His great-grandfather, who raised his father, was too elderly. He was in his 80s already. He was not able because he had too many medical issues. He would not be able to have been taking care of an 11-month-old child. Unfortunately, like I said, I found out that for the 3 months when Terrell was away with the other siblings during that investigation that we were cleared of, I found out that his father died. It was due to homicide. So he was a young man of the streets, unfortunately, and the street took him. So once that happened, we were asked, do you want to adopt him? We said, absolutely. That's always been something that we left on the table as a possibility.
Now, is there a limit to how many kids you can have? I know back in the day there was a limit to how many kids you can have. And another thing too, is it still more difficult for older kids to get placed than younger kids? I know, like even for adoption and for foster care, a lot of people don't want to deal with the teenagers; they only want to deal with the younger ones. Is that still a problem? And is there a limit on the amount?
You cannot have more. Well, Well, in the state of Pennsylvania, you can't have more than 6 children, period, in the home.
Okay.
So it could be your biological and foster kids. You can't have more than
Total.
6.
Total.
Wow.
No more than 6 total. Now, with regards, it's the older a child is, it is absolutely more difficult because we have to also understand it could be a teenager that just came into care. It could be a 14, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old that just came into care through no fault of their own. They had to be removed from their family. That's a lot of years of having a specific home culture.
Wow.
And a lot of people aren't patient. I mean, I've had people that say, you know what, I want the teenagers because I'm grown, I work, it'll be easier. I've met some wonderful, awesome foster parents that are doing amazing things with teenagers. I've also met some that gave up because of the things that the young person did. And it wasn't because the foster parent didn't have the patience. It's just that child had already had so much built up trauma that they couldn't be in that home. They were just causing too much chaos. I've seen it. So it's very rare to find a good combination. Someone that is willing to understand. You're going to get even the young ones. I mean, I mean, young children, they come in with such trauma. They do certain things just to try you.
Yeah.
To see if you're going to, I'm going to fix you. Or unfortunately, sometimes the bio family, my alarm came off. I'm sorry. The bio family says things to the child and says, you know what? If you do this, they'll take you out of that house. And they wrongly say to them, you could come back with me. And that's not the case. They don't come back.
Wow.
If you act a fool in this house, if you tear up their furniture, if you fuss them out, curse them out, if you are just nasty, don't bathe, don't clean, aren't keeping your room
helpful. Yeah.
Nothing. They'll make you leave. They won't want you to stay there.
Wow.
And it takes a lot of toughness. It doesn't. I mean, they tried it in my house. Little ones have tried it in my house.
Oh wow!
They've torn up a wall. They've torn up a rug.
Their parents told them to do that.
Yeah, they defecated on themselves. Just to do it.
Yeah.
Some things are expected initially because of nerves and their anxiety, but when things start certain behaviors start coming out, it's because someone's in their ear telling them to do things.
Yes. Wow, that is so heavy. I'm so proud of you, Maritza. I don't even know. Because I mean, I just feel like, you have to come from a special star to be selfless like that. You know what I mean? And, people have a hard time with their own kids, much less somebody else's situations. I mean,
I have to say thank you for what you do. Thank you for what you're doing. I'm not a religious person. I don't believe in all that. But in my mind, if you look at a person that was doing something like you're doing, to me, that's most godly as it can be. You're servicing people that can't serve themselves, can't help themselves.
Yes.
So in that, thank you for doing what you're doing. That's a blessing.
Welcome.
That's a blessing to these young children because they're going to grow up and remember you. And they're going to remember what you did. You're a lifelong impact on their lives. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. You're instilling something magical.
Yeah.
So,
thank you, you two, for agreeing to talk about this topic. I appreciate it.
It's important. I think there needs to be more people that are out there like you and who are just like seeing the need to do it. So let me ask you one more question. Who did you have to convince your husband or did he have to convince you? Like how did y'all decide together? Like who pulled who in?
Well, it's funny because my husband and we were separated for a little bit early on. And I said, I'm not going to have another child by myself. So I made a choice to go through surgery to no longer have children. So when we reconciled, I said the only way we're going to have more children in this house is when we foster kids, because it costs $15,000 to reverse this.
Right.
So, and we joked about it, we thought about it, we talked about it, and we just did it, and we've been doing it. And like I said, we're doing it in partnership.
He's in social services as well, right? In his
Yes,
own career.
He's a clinical caseworker for over 15 years, working with adults, mental health and drug and alcohol. So
it's
he
like
has a lot of patience.
Yeah, it's like a perfect combination, both of you.
Yeah,
so that's cool. Well, thank you, and I know it sounds like you got a lot going on in the background.
Yes, I'm sorry.
What you're doing, because I know people.
I am I work for an organization called the National Parents Union, a parent advocacy group fighting for equitable education for all children, especially Black and Brown. I'm the Northeast Regional Organizer, and myself and my director and my deputy director, we decided to have some fun and do a photo shoot, and that's what they're doing. They started without me. I said, I'll be right there.
Do you have any contact information if somebody wants to reach out to you? If they want to be a part of this?
Absolutely. www.nationalparentsunion.org is the organization's website. It is free to be a member. We're accepting individual and organizational members, as well as if anybody wants to reach me, it's Maritza. My name is right here at npunion.org. They can send me an email and I'll respond.
NPU
Union.
NPunion.org.
Yes. So feel free to send me an email. I respond to folks all the time. But yeah, and we also have a Facebook page, National Parents Union Facebook page, and I also have a podcast. Shameless plug here. It's called Looped In with Maritza on Wednesdays, live on Facebook at 4:00 Eastern Standard Time.
Okay, I got it all. I didn't get that part yet, but I'm typing as fast as I can.
That's okay. It's called Looped In with Maritza. It's 4 p.m. on Wednesdays, live on Facebook.
Okay. Looped In with Maritza.
Yes.
And that's live on Wednesday evenings?
Yeah, 4:00 on Facebook on Wednesday.
4 p.m.
Yeah.
On Facebook. Okay, got it. My typing skills are working. So, all right, Maritza. Well, you have a fun day, and thank you for doing this.
Yes.
And thank you for all.
We're gonna try to push this out into the atmosphere and get. I just want folks that can do this, do it, because
absolutely. Anybody, they can just Google foster care certification in their area, and they'll get a list of all the agencies in their community that are offering the certification. It's free. I mean, the only thing you would initially pay is for the initial clearances. After that, the agency takes care of it. So you don't even pay. It's not even $30, not even $25 between the fingerprint and the criminal background and child abuse. And once you do that, you're good.
That's awesome.
Hopefully we can have you back on again too, a follow-up and kind of see what's going on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'll have you guys on my show. So don't forget me.
Absolutely.
All right.
Let me know I'm there.
Enjoy your Saturday.
All right. Talk to you later. Peace.
Thank
Peace
you.
and blessings.